Hey guys, it's Joy from theSPACE here in Cairns. I am in one of our training rooms and I wanted to walk you through some of the tools that we've created here and ideally show you fundamentally, how to start a business, or we say like a boss. And I want to show you how I've used these tools to make $6,000 in a day from going from I've got an idea to then testing it, making $6,000 and then turning it into a company. And not just once, we've done this with multiple ideas within the space, and we do this, this is what we teach our clients to do as well. So really excited to share this with you. Hopefully you get a lot out of it. There is a guide. You've got our agile plan. It's a one-page strategic plan to teach you how to take your idea, which fundamentally is intangible, and then put it into a logical business structure. And then from that, we'll teach you how to take your first steps. So let's get into this. So fundamentally, what I do is I teach people how to make money from their ideas, and ideally people that haven't been in business before. So why do I do that? Because fundamentally it's hard. And I guess through this presentation, I'm going to go through a few things with you. I'm going to look at some of the challenges of why it is so hard. And then I'm going to give you a model. I'm going to share our model with you, because it's not just about turning ideas into money or into a reality, as we say, but it's also learning how to be an entrepreneur. And I guess that's what is at the heart of this. I want to teach you how to be an entrepreneur. Because I guess there's a school of thought out there, can entrepreneurs be entrepreneurs? Are they born or are they made? I think it's a little bit of both. There's the fundamental skills that you can learn, but then there's also the intrinsic elements like fearlessness, tenacity, creativity. There's different elements that you can't necessarily, it's harder to teach, but like directly, but you can learn them indirectly through modeling other people. So by connecting with other people of like mind, you can embody the skills of an entrepreneur. And if you layer, again, another layer on top of that, which is doing something that you love, as part of the programs that we run at theSPACE, we teach you how to identify or connect more along with what your purpose is. How do you live more purposefully? And so when you tap into that, and something turns on inside you, and you want to learn more and more and more and more about that. And then fundamentally, when you're learning around what it is that you love, you lose track of time, and you become almost an expert in that. So if you take that connection to that entrepreneurial, or sorry, that purpose, you layer on top of that some entrepreneurial skills, and you layer on top of that a community of other people that are doing similar things, fundamentally, I think that entrepreneurs can be made. So we're going to give you, we've got a few different models, but I want to do a deep dive into one of them. Then I'm going to give you some practical steps to get you started. I hope that is okay. I do encourage you to print out the strategic plan, the agile plan that we've provided for you, just so that you can follow along. And so, why do we do this? I guess I've had some success in business. I've built and sold different businesses and had some good exits, and then had worked on other ideas, and they were tanking, and poured lots of money into them, and then really just had to figure this out. And then 6 years ago, this is theSPACE. When we first started it, theSPACE is an incubator and a broader online community. So it's a physical incubator based in Cairns, in Far North Queensland, regional Queensland. But then it's also, we have a large online community as well. This is us getting started. This is like 6 years ago. And we use the same philosophies and methodologies that I'm going to teach you today to start theSPACE. And we started it. Why do we start it? Why did I start it? It's for all those three things that I talked about before. It's like bringing together like-minded people, providing a space to focus learning, and then also can help people to connect into a greater sense of purpose. But you know, like I said, the reality is this is hard. It is you know, it's a journey that we're embarking on, and there's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur and to be in business. But fundamentally, you know, there's no BS in this. It's still hard. Because fundamentally, you know, if you think about it practically, we're learning, it's like learning 8 different languages all at once. And, you know, if you look at this image, it's you sitting around fundamentally in the early stages of business at the table at each one of these different elements. And without rattling them all off, you know, you're looking at sales, learning sales, you're looking at learning marketing, administration, accounting, leadership, product development, general operations, administration. I might say that twice. But there's a whole gambit of different languages or segments to the business that you need to learn. And when you think about that, that can be fundamentally massively overwhelming. And I know starting out in business, I felt totally overwhelmed to the point of, you know, I've got an idea. What do I do with it? I don't know what to do with it. And then there's this big thing called business and all this stuff that I need to learn. It's like, well, how do you do that? And it's so challenging. And I don't know, because I've been there, but it doesn't have to be that challenging. I'll just say one other thing is that, you know, when you take that, like say learning those 8 different languages, and then you couple that with, you know, or having a life outside of that, you know, you're having a family or a relationship and potentially kids, and then looking after your health, and, you know, having some sort of balance in your life, you know, that's a lot. That's, you know, and potentially even a side hustle. You know, there'd be a requirement for a lot of people to have a side hustle, like a job, and maybe this is your side hustle. And that, you know, that's enough. That's full. You know, like that's full. That's overwhelmed. So to know how to cut through and know exactly what you need to do, when you need to do it, without like the risk of losing your key resources, which I'm going to talk about, is incredibly important. I know the pain of that. And then you layer on that, like the human condition, like the whole self-doubt thing that we have. And it's not an isolated problem. You're not alone in this. I've talked to some of the most wealthy people in this entrepreneurial space, and they still have what we call imposter syndrome. They still have this sense of self-doubt, and it's a human condition. It's part of the human condition. But there's things that we can do to circumnavigate that. But I appreciate when you're first starting out with that whole sense of overwhelm and all that like complexity of what to actually do. Well, you've got this burning idea, you don't know what to do with it. Then you've got all this stuff to learn, but then, you know, you flip between, I'm not good enough, but I want to do it. It's such a great idea. But then, you know, there's this whole internal dialogue that can be maddening. I know, I've been there. And for the most of us, we have limited, you know, time, money, and energy. And so we need to use it strategically. I've seen so many people spend their money in all the wrong things and their time. And then, you know, this is why 9 out of 10 startups fail, is because they don't know the process to follow, and they burn their precious resources. And the 3 most precious resources we have as an entrepreneur and when we're starting out is time, money, and energy. So the limitation that we have on these is real, and the risks are real. And, you know, beyond this, there's a real, you know, no one wants to fail. And there's, with 9 out of 10 startups failing, you know, the risks are real, the losses are real. And I've seen, you know, the worst of all of this in the years that I've been doing this. You know, the risk, it's not just financial risk, it's like risks to relationships, risk to your health and your mental health. physical risk. Did I say that one already? But the risks are real, and I've seen people go through, and it's crushing, you know, like go through these. You know, this is a tough sport that we play, and it's not something that should be taken lightly. So to have what you're about to learn now is really, really empowering. And what it is, what I'm really passionate about and why I'm excited to be sharing this with you is because it really is about creating something epic. You know, we all have this magic inside us. For the most part, it's dormant in a lot of us. You know, we're stuck in jobs. And part of what the theSPACE's mission is to help free people from employment and create entrepreneurship, connecting to what it is that you love, and then, you know, make money from that. And so I'm really stoked that you're here, because the opportunity is to create something epic, you know, to build something epic. What is it that you know, and fundamentally, you're worthy. You know, what is it that you want to create? And part of what we do, you know, what would it be like to be guided through that complexity, you know, that overwhelm, learning those 8 different languages and then balancing that with family? You know, I've been doing this for years now and figured a whole lot of stuff out, made so many mistakes along the way, but I'm at the point now where I've got a lot of this stuff dialed, and I'm really stoked to be able to share that with you and help guide you through this maze and teach you some fundamentals of how to find that confidence. And by confidence, it's simply moving away from that self-doubt. And part of that is just giving you some fundamental tools to be able to connect in with who you really are. Because when you connect in with that, you know, like, then you're alive, then you're living, then you're not, you know, at the mercy of the judgments of the world. You know, like I've got, I wear my hair different than a lot of people. I like it, but it's an opportunity to have a conversation with people, to be in allowance of people's judgments, so that you can, you know, if someone says to you your idea is stupid, and you just, you know, because you're in a place of self-doubt and you listen to them, you know, you've already lost. And I'm not saying that you don't want to take feedback. You do, but from the right people. So I want to teach you how to do this. And I want to help to empower you to have the internal fortitude to be able to move through this space, because it is a tough game. But, you know, like, I'm here to help. Instill that sense of confidence in you. And maximize the use of your key resources: time, money, and energy. And you'll hear me talk about time, money, and energy a lot. So help you maximize your time and energy by helping you to ideally be making sales from day one. It's not rocket science. It's not that hard. And it is something real that you can do. And it's not like some Ponzi scheme or some scam. It's legitimate business. And this is how you start. This is best practice, how you get started. And the opportunity, you know, like the aspiration is to live the life that you really want to live, not encumbered by the doubts that you have in your head, but to be energized by the passion that you have in your heart, but then also linking that to a logical process for how you turn that, you know, insight that you have inside into a logical structure that allows you to create something epic so that you can live the life of your dreams. You know, take a minute now just to take stock of what we've covered so far. You know, we've looked at, you know, what is it that holds people back from stepping off into this entrepreneurial space? And, you know, all of that is real, but it doesn't have to be. And what would it be like to move beyond those fears and those frustrations and step into these, you know, desires and aspirations and live that? Because what I'm here telling you is that is 100% possible, and I'm here to help you to achieve that. I wanted to tell you a little bit, I give you a quick case study. And it's something simple. It is just about getting started. I want to talk about Trish. I met Trish at a boot camp that I was running. And she wanted, I won't go into too much detail because, I don't want to invade her confidence, her privacy too much at this early stage. But she wanted to create a course for people, say young people. And what she was doing, because she had those, that self-doubt and just that, fog around how do you actually start, because it is so overwhelming and very limited time. She had put out her start date, say we met in April this year, she put her start date back into, June next year, but was going to then go and do this massive training course, which would have cost $20,000 in the UK. And there's all this stuff that she thought she needed to do before she started. And I talked to her and I showed her what I'm going to share with you. And what she's now done is gone from April to June, July, and she's created her own course, sold out the first conference, the workshop that she's running, and is now already looking to run them in other cities around the country. And at, almost zero risk, like what she's risked as part of that is very little. Whereas if she would have followed her previous track, she would have gone, to the UK, invested $20,000, lost a lot of this time, maybe missed the opportunity, like the process I'm going to share with you is very real, and I'm really quite proud of Trish. But she's like one of many. It's with what I'm going to share with you, the magic is real. I also wanted to share with you another story. Marianne, her name's really not Marianne, but I want to protect her privacy. She quit her job and leapt because she had an idea and she wanted to develop it. And not someone that I was working with, but someone that I didn't know, a colleague that I used to work with in employment years ago. And she wanted to start a business and she'd seen what I was doing. I thought, wow, Troy's doing it, I'm going to do it as well. And then she jumped off and she burned a lot of her resources, time, money, and energy. And long story short is, got to the point where she ran out of oxygen, she ran out of runway, ran out of money, she ran out of time, and then ran out of energy, she went into burnout. She had no money. She was getting the real estate essentially kicked her out. Her car was getting repossessed. And the shot that you see here is, fundamentally, she ended up back at her ex-husband's place in her daughter's room, sleeping in the bed there. It's a pretty tough situation to be in. I want you to be aware that the risks are real. This is a tough game, and the entrepreneurial space, it is glorified because the opportunities are real as well. It really is a matter of being strategic. My job as a startup and innovation coach is to teach you how to do this as risk aversely as possible. There's a huge upside, and the path to get started is really easy, and you can get started really quickly with very limited resources. The flip though is, if you don't know this stuff, you can expose not just yourself, but your family, your health to real risks, and the risks can be dire. So whether you take on what I'm saying as part of this webinar that I'm sharing with you now, or whether you find somebody else, or just be aware, is what I'm saying. So I want to stop, and I want you to think at this point, like, why do you want to start a business? What's your reasons for starting a business? Maybe take a moment, just write a note down. in your phone, but I want you to really just maybe even just pause this for a second and just like, why a business? What is it for you? Like for me, it was like, I've had these ideas, and it's like, I think they're really good ideas, and it's like about expression. It's about making something awesome. And it's like, almost like I didn't have a choice, you know, I wanted to create something epic. And, you know, and maybe it didn't start there, but that's definitely where it is at now. And I'm thinking back to where it actually started was I had finished my marketing degree, and there was no decent marketing jobs. And I'd not ever thought about starting a business. And at this stage, I was about 26. And a friend was starting a business, and he kept talking around and talking about it. And then I was like, well, maybe I could start a business as well. And that's what inspired me in that first place. But now when I'm in it, you know, like now the opportunity is to create really epic things. And that's what drives me. But, you know, like to be your own boss, you know, work your own hours, create your own income, you know, there's a power in that. That's like a power like no other. So I'm just going to share with you now quickly 5 key points that I'm going to cover off. And then I'm going to get into the model, and then I'm going to show you how to get started. So 5 key points that I want you to be aware of. You know, like you need a model to follow. And I'm going to share our model that we use here at theSPACE. But whether it's our model or you need a model, it's like I've got an idea. Like you don't have to innovate and reinvent everything. Is what I'm saying. You find a model that is been done before, and just follow it. You know, like there's so much else to figure out on this process, on this journey of this entrepreneurial path, that you don't have to, you know, I see people, they want to come up with all these trick business models, or, you know, just thinking that they need to innovate everything. And there's some things that you absolutely want to apply creativity to, but some things you just need to just take off the shelf and apply. And that's what, you know, what we've figured is we've designed a process, a model that, you know, you can apply to yours. Mapping out your idea, you know, like I mentioned earlier, ideas are fundamentally intangible. You know, it's an idea. Being able to put that into a logical structure that enables you to be able to look at it as, you know, what somewhat of a framework of a business is really, really powerful, because then you can screen it. I'm going to show you how to quickly screen ideas soon. So being able to map out your idea is really important. And what I'm not talking about is a massive big business plan. I think business plans at this stage are such a waste of time. If anyone asks you to do a business plan for your idea at this stage, I'm telling you, you know, they're putting you at risks of losing time, money, and energy. And if you don't think that's real, you know, how, you know, you've got, ideally, whether it's just yourself or whether your family, like it's taking those resources away from, you know, the people that you care about. So doing a business plan at this early stage is an absolute waste of time. And I will rant all day about it if you let me. We need to identify, you know, what fundamentally, because we're dealing with intangible ideas, we're guessing a lot. And that's why I'm so anti-business plans. But so what we need to do is identify what are our core guesses, what are our key guesses, and then we need to build something to be able to test those assumptions. And, you know, it's one of the classic fallacies in entrepreneurship is like, if you build a better mousetrap, the world will be the path to your door. The reality is they won't, and they don't. The mousetrap, I think there's like 4,000 patents for different types of mousetraps. You can electrocute mice, you can drown them, you can poison them. There's a whole gambit of different ways that you can get rid of mice or vermin from your house. But which is the mousetrap that fundamentally most of us have, if we do have mousetraps? Yeah, this one that you can see on the screen. So if you build a better mousetrap, it doesn't mean the world is going to be a path to your door. So it's really important. And I talk around the foundations of what makes up assumptions. And I'm going to teach you that very soon as we keep moving through. And then we want to run experiments based around our assumptions to see if what we're assuming is correct. And if you think back to science, like at school, like Science 101, you were given an experiment, the foundations of an experiment. You had to get the different elements together, and then you do the experiment, and then you measure the results, and then, you know, what did you learn? Did your hypothesis, what you were assuming, test work out based on the experiment that you run? And then you get to learning. It's that same sort of process that we apply to this, that we apply to entrepreneurship and turning ideas into reality. And then, you know, you want to get connected. This is like I talked about the entrepreneurs being born or made. You don't want to be the Robinson Crusoe. This is not a Robinson Crusoe kind of sport where you think you have to do it alone, and then you'll end up getting shipwrecked and living on an island by yourself for the next 20 years. And, you know, like, get connected into your communities. Hubs and co-working spaces springing up all over the place. Surround yourself with these sort of people. I know when I had an online travel business, I was working from home. My staff were working from home, which is kind of novel, but you know, you get lonely in that environment, and I'd get a block and I wouldn't know how to move beyond it. It could take me weeks or months to move beyond it. But now, you know, we've got an incubator here, a co-working space as part of that. And if I get stuck, someone on the desk next to me can pretty much help me out, you know, like it accelerates your growth and accelerates, you know, time is one of those key resources that you have as an entrepreneur, and it helps you to move beyond it. So I'm going to encourage you to get connected. I want to take a moment just to stop and ask you, you know, what's been most valuable for you so far and why? You can pause this if you like. Cool. I'm going to trust that you did. I trust that you wrote something down, because reflection helps to solidify learning. So it's why I do it. So now I want to share with you the model that we use here at theSPACE, and you'll see as part of this, you'll see what I'm going to share. Like, I'm going to share an element, and do a deep dive into an element of this. So there's three. Sorry, in the center here, this part here. Just get my pen working. What color? I might go black. So I apologize if I'm looking down now, because I'm just going to do some writing here. But you'll see in this part here, this is the sweet spot. This is fundamentally where so entrepreneur, a lot of what this is teaching you how to be an entrepreneur. And as part of that, we looked at some of the challenges earlier. It's about instilling confidence in you, giving you a strategy, and then helping connect to, you can totally see that I need to do calligraphy classes, right? You know, that is so bad. I'm going to rub it out and do it again. So community. So as part of being an entrepreneur, it is about, you know, connecting into helping you to connect to greater sense of confidence, giving you a solid strategy, and helping you to connect to community. And to help you to do this, we focus on three key pillars. There's you, your idea, and then, you know, building out the opportunity. Just because it's a good idea, it doesn't necessarily mean it's an opportunity. It's only an opportunity if you have the skills, resources, and time to be able to execute on it. And so let's start at the you element for a little bit. So what we have here, these are like accelerators, and this is like modules that we teach on in our broader programs at theSPACE, because fundamentally you are the foundation. You know, you are without you, your idea is dead. Without you know, your company in the early stages is dead. It's, you know, and in saying that, you know, an idea will only only grow as much as the founder will let it. So there's things that I have already mentioned, but time is a key element. So we do a deep dive into time, like help refine your game, you know, help level up your skills around time. Money, like knowing what your burn rate is, knowing what your runway is. Burn rate being how much it costs you to live, how much it costs your business to survive, and coupling that with your family commitments, you know, and then how long, you know, if you don't make money for a while, how long is your runway? Do you need to have a side hustle? All of this is designed to help you, give you the best possible chance to get your idea up and running. And then, you know, energy. The reality is like maximizing your effectiveness. And there's lots of things, this is a passion area of mine, helping you to maximize your effectiveness on a day-to-day basis is really, really important. And the flip of that, the dark side of that is burnout is real in this space. You know, you can't keep pumping Red Bulls and coffees and expect to do well in the entrepreneurial space. You know, this is a marathon, not a sprint. And don't get me wrong, there'll be times when you'll need to sprint as part of this journey, but you can't sprint forever. And when we look at, you know, like the overnight successes, the reality is if you look at the backstory of those overnight successes, often there's a founder there that's done, you know, 5, 6, 7 years work, getting to that point where it tips and it becomes an overnight success. So it's a marathon, not a sprint. So we need to, you know, help fortify you as a pillar and a founder of your organization, of your idea. And then from there, you know, it's about having a process. So, you know, what is the process that you'll follow to help build out your idea? And then from there, you know, problems are at the heart of entrepreneurship. Like, what problem are you solving? And then it's like, for who? So we do deep dives into these because the more we understand the problem and the customer, the more effective we are going to be in our business and getting traction. And essentially that's what this is about, is getting traction. And then from there, we have product development. We do a deep dive into this accelerator, product dev. And then we look at different business models. You know, what is the right business model for you? And, you know, sales funnels. You know, once we start getting some level of proof of concept, sorry, my bad, proof of concept, and we set up some sales funnels. And that's when we start moving into, you know, we've got 3 of these different models that we have here at theSPACE. The U element is a model all in itself. So we have one of these models that's focused around you. This is just one integration of that. And at the heart of that U element is purpose, helping you to understand a greater sense of who you are and your purpose. And then, you know, when you're working ideas that come from that space, they're really, really quite powerful. This model here is about leveling you up as an entrepreneur. And the next level up is about, you know, scaling that into, you know, into a company. And so we've looked at if numbering system, 0 is the U. This is 0 to 1, taking your idea and validating and leveling you up as an entrepreneur. And then the next level is 1 to affinity. You know, it allows you to scale and create. And that's when you start really having an impact. I'm just going to get a highlighter. So what we tend to do now is ask you to give yourself a scoring system. Actually, I'm just going to go back to my pen for a sec. If you could give yourself a score, like traffic light system here. So we've got green, orange, and red, or green, amber, and red. And let's go to green. What I want you to do, if you have drawn this or you have this in front of you, or even just be thinking about it now, One sec. And orange. And, all right, and red. So then what we would do, what I want you to do is think around these different things. In each area where you think that you've got it absolutely dialed, so looking around the outside now, like time, money, and energy, in those key areas, like if you've got it absolutely nailed, then I want you to give yourself a color it green. If you're doing some good stuff there, but you still need to level it up, give yourself an orange. And if you totally suck and it's not happening at all, and you absolutely know you need support in that area, give it a red. So like, for example, if you find yourself not much energy, color this area in red. If you've got no awareness around your money, well, then that would be red. If you're pretty good at managing your time, then if you think you're master of your time, give yourself a green that. If you've got no process for mapping out your idea, then give that a red. If you know what the problem is and you map that out in great detail, or maybe say you need to do some work on it, well then that would be an orange, etc., etc. And ideally, we know who the customer is. Then this gives us a framework, a model that we can then look at and go, wow, okay, this is the work that I need to do to help level myself up as an entrepreneur. The flip of this is, if what this model does, and if we don't do this, what I find is that looking at this here, and we use the opposite, so this actually relates to that there. So often we find ourselves in fear, anxiety, and stress generally. If we haven't, got the skills to be able to map out our idea, that would normally go there. We would then have, we become over-attached to our idea. One day I will do calligraphy to get my handwriting better. If we don't have a strategy to map out our opportunity, we really are at high risk. 9 out of 10 startups fail. The reality is, if startups were to follow this methodology that I teach, and the startups that I do teach, then the risk becomes almost zero, because you'll follow this process until you get to what it is that you're looking for, a proof of concept. I hope that makes sense. So taking one last look at that, like this is the model. This is a framework to help level you up as an entrepreneur. But how do we do that? So what I want to do now, sorry, just doing one more time, is I want to focus in on just one core area here. I want to look at this process element. I want to share this process with you. And that's what we're going to jump into now, how we actually do that bit. And so we've got a worksheet, and this is the worksheet that you have. And like I mentioned before, an idea is fundamentally intangible. And what we want to do is put it into a logical structure so that you're able to look at it and see if it's something that you should do. And we call this like an agile plan. This is a one page. There is a backside of it though as well. And it starts, you can see here, there's an external facing component to it, and then an internal facing component. The external facing component is, starts with the problem. What problem is our idea actually solving? And in here, you detail them down. So print it out and you detail them down, write them out, whatever they might be. And then customer, who are we actually solving that for? So if I was to use an example, we created a school-based entrepreneurship program called Emerging Entrepreneurs. The problem that we're solving is, and I'm actually not going to write on it because it's having some trouble. A, my writing is pretty messy, and B, for whatever reason, it's causing it to flick. So school-based program, the problem we were solving was for parents. Parents came to us and said, we'd love to, have what you're teaching for our kids. And we're like, oh, okay, so that's cool. Let's explore it. So we did one of these, mapped out the problems. So jobs of tomorrow aren't going to be the same. So more and more people will find, the safer option is to have entrepreneurial skills so that you can create your own income as opposed to needing to rely on a job. And customers are parents, schools, TAFEs, the kids, obviously, and that would look to do the programs, as to name a few. So in this point, you want to detail them all, just list them all down. And the solution we looked at initially was a 10-session entrepreneurship training course for kids, one afternoon a week, after school, extracurricular. So the channels we looked at was, there's so many. You could use Facebook to get the word out there, schools, emails, school newsletters, talking to our existing network, et cetera, all the different channels. There's about 20 channels, albeit, that you could look at. And then revenue, how do we think we're going to make money? So we thought, oh, well, the user pays model would be $219 or something like that. Is that fair? That works out to be about $20 a lesson after school. That seems reasonable. Let's try that. So we tried that. What were the costs involved? Like fundamentally, the costs involved in setting up this is time, and that was pretty much it. We had a space, so that wasn't going to be a consideration. And maybe a little bit of graphic design work, setting up a flyer. In the early stages, there wasn't much involved. And then strengths, what were the strengths? Obviously we can draw on a whole gambit of different experience in this entrepreneurial space. We had some good connections to schools as well. That was a plus. Good connections with universities. There was a strength that the parents were actually, there's a pull for it. They're asking for it. Weaknesses were that, we were limited in time. We didn't have that much time because we had other projects on the go. Fundamentally, we had most other things. So the USP, what was unique, there wasn't at that time many other school-based programs in the marketplace. So we thought, well, it is kind of unique. We might have the first mover advantage. If we do push it, let's explore it. And then passion, how much do we love it? And we're like, well, it's probably 8 or a 9 out of 10. We're busy, got other things, but this is important. Kids are an important part of an ecosystem. Like they're tomorrow's entrepreneurs. We need to do some work there. It's a great opportunity to do that. So then we looked at it objectively and go, all right, well, should we do it? What's the risk involved? And you can sort of see, like internally, fundamentally the risk was time, wasn't that much. Externally, we had a pretty good sense of what was possible. So with your idea, if you follow this format, well, then you can then look at your idea objectively whilst it's on paper and say, hey, should we do this? Because I want to say to you at this point, and this is like, it does take a bit to get your head around and appreciate the depth of what I'm about to say, but I think once you get it, it's really important, it's real, and that is that ideas are like buses. There's always going to be another one coming. And I know that your idea at the moment might seem like the next best thing, the best thing since sliced bread, but fundamentally, it may not work out that way. Like for me, I used to think my ideas were the best ideas. They were awesome. I was going to change the world. And to a large extent, some of them are, and I am executing on them. But then there's others, like the flip here is like passion's important. I say to people, you got to love it at least 9 or 10 out of 10. Otherwise, don't do it. Otherwise, you'll give up. You'll stop because business is hard. But the flip of that is if you love it and you haven't followed this process and you've already invested in it, like time, money, and energy, like physically, emotionally, and financially invested in it, then we find people will defend it. And then they stop listening to the market and they try to make it fit. And it's like the sunk cost fallacy, where they sunk so much cost in it, time, money, and energy into it, that they feel like they need to keep going with it to recoup that. But it's a dead-end street, and they end up what we call the valley of death with their ideas. And unfortunately, I've seen a whole gambit of people that have ended up there because they're just not willing to let go. The smarter entrepreneur would look at this and go, wow, you know what, I think it's a good idea, but I'm going to let the market tell me if it's a good idea or not, because they'll pay me. And for me, like at this stage in my career, I'm really looking for ideas where there's a pull, where I do something, I quickly test it, and there's a pull for it and the customers want it, as opposed to me having to, you know, try to ram it down someone's throat. Then the risks become so much higher. There's one of the biggest, you know, risks in entrepreneurship, I think, that I haven't even talked about is, you know, when you get this dial, you see opportunities in everything. Opportunities are everywhere. You know, there's problems everywhere, so there's opportunities everywhere. And when you flip from opportunity to opportunity, or you spread yourself way too thin, and that's what I said at the beginning, you know, you're full when you've got an idea and you've got a family and your side hustle and your health. That's enough. If you have 2 or 3 ideas, that's way too many, and you'll end up crushing everything. So I hope that's given you some food for thought. Print this out, map your idea, because, you know, this is the process of taking your intangible idea and making it tangible. And then from there, it's like, well, I'm happy with that risk that's involved in that. How do I take the next step? And this is like where we start validating with the market. And it is an iterative cycle. It's like a learning cycle. And this is where we were like quite general on that last page, on the idea screen page. We want to just do a brainstorm and get all our ideas down. From there, what we want to do is draw out our core guess, our core assumption, and then test that in the marketplace. And this is where people freak out, they freeze up, and I understand this, and that's why the community element is so important. Get connected, and, you know, my job as a coach becomes real, because it's about facilitating people through this and helping people to take right action. Because the worst thing that you can do is build in isolation and not do this work. Building in isolation will increase your risk dramatically. You'll be pouring your resources, time, money, and energy into building out your solution without validating it. And I'm sorry to say, but in 99.9% of the cases that I've observed, we get a huge element of it wrong. Sure, we get some of it right, but the elements that we get wrong, you're wasting your resources, time, money, and energy. So looking at this here, in our situation, if I revert back to my emerging entrepreneurs example, the problem that we were solving specifically was that parents were concerned that the kids weren't getting the training that they needed to, you know, thrive in the modern world. So the customer we really targeted for our beachhead, and we say beachhead as in, it's a war analogy. If you think, you know, going to invade a beach, you don't spread your troops, as limited as they might be, up and down the whole beach. You try to find the best entry point, and then you concentrate force there, get to the high ground, and then try to take the beach from there. Same sort of thing for a market. You know, where's the low-hanging fruits? Where's the easy entry point for you? Concentrate your resources there. Try to get some traction. And if you don't get traction there, well then, you know, you pull back, and then you haven't lost that much. If you get traction, you go, all right, well, I've got, you know, making money. How do I then, you know, expand it from there? So that's what the concept of a beachhead is. And the customer being, in our instance, was parents with obviously school-age kids channels. What we chose to do, and we want to choose just one channel. And this is like just for this iteration. You know, we want to spin this wheel as quickly as possible. And you'll see the diagram on there. It helps to give you a graphical representation of that. So we chose our existing database. We had, you know, a database of 800-900 people. Some of them were parents. We put the word out that we're creating this program. And we put a price on it of $219. We hadn't created anything at this point. But yeah, this is this is, yeah, we haven't created anything at this point, but this is what we put out. Our minimal viable product. The minimal viable product is we didn't want to go and create the 10 courses, the 10 weeks, sorry, for the course. And because fundamentally, you know, no one wanted to board it. And we've been a massive waste of time and energy. And then, so what we did, what was the minimum that we needed to develop to be able to demonstrate that value? We created a simple flyer, which kind of explained what we thought we were going to teach, you know, and that changed throughout the course of the program once we got into it. And put a price on it, and then, you know, use that. Our flyer is the minimum that we needed to create to be able to demonstrate the value that we're positioning. You know, your child will learn these skills that will give them an advantage in the modern world. They'll learn, you know, creativity, connection to sense of passion, pitching skills, like being able to, they'll learn tenacity, they'll learn this iterative learning cycle, so they'll be able to problem solve, move quickly in a modern world, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we had a bunch of parents that bought in and said, yeah, I want my kid to be involved. And we thought, great, we'll run it as a pilot. And then from there, you know, like it's gone through many different iterations. We ran that 10-session after school extracurricular pilot. And from there, it's gone through many different iterations. The customer segments have changed, the sales funnels, you know, the different customer target markets have changed. We built out sales funnels. You know, we've sold hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of this product now, but fundamentally that's how it started. And you can see here, like, this measure bit is really important. You know, like, what people tend to do is they often get stuck. They'll get their MVP bill, but they won't go out and actually talk to the customers. Or worse still, they'll talk to their family and friends and ask their advice. And I want to give you a heads up right now, write down, and I want you to hear this, and I appreciate you're a smart person and you'll listen, but the only people's opinion that really matters are your customers, fundamentally. Like, if your friend says it's an awesome idea, if your mum says it's an awesome idea, it doesn't matter. You know, it's actually detrimental because it's giving you a false sense of what is real. The only person's opinion that matters is your customer, because they'll do what? They'll pay you for a solution, and that's where it's at, you know. And unless someone's going to pay you for that solution, well, then their opinion doesn't matter. It's giving you a false sense of what is real. So, and you can create, we've got some basic metrics in step 4 here, but you can create your own metrics. So what is it that you want to measure that's going to help get you that information? One thing I'll quickly mention is the revenue, the purchase price. I put that in here specifically because what would happen if we don't ask people to actually buy is when you ask for when you ask for, you know, like, hey, this is a problem I'm solving, you're my customer, I'm using this channel, this is my minimal viable product, what do you think? You know, like, the information you're going to get is just ambiguous. I love it, it's great, but, you know, there's 2 types of different feedback. There's the stated feedback, which is where they might say they love it, and the observed feedback, though, is when you ask them to buy, you get their real answer, because no one's going to, they might say they love it, but then if you ask them to, oh, will you buy, it's $219, they'll give you their real response, because if they genuinely love it, they'll pay for it because they need it. And what you don't want to do is take that stated feedback where they say they love it, but you haven't asked them to buy, and then go out and invest a lot of your resources in building something out, and then turn around and go back to that same person and say, look, I've got it ready now, it's so beautiful and polished. And they're like, oh, I think it's awesome, I love it, but yeah, I'm not going to buy it, I'm not interested in it. We want to avoid that. So that's my job as a startup innovation coach, is to help you to avoid all these mistakes that I've seen people make over the years. And then you look at, what did you learn? What did I learn? I think, you know, the feedback I got was good. They told me this, they told me that. And that's one of the things that I have now, you know, I fall in love with that learning as opposed to needing to be right or wrong, because that learning helps me to then get to this top of this learning cycle and go, what do I know now? Well, you know what? I'm not going to pursue this idea. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Another bus is going to come along. Boom. Oh, wow. I'm going to try this one. And then I've got this process that I can then apply that this methodology to. it's this process is so powerful, and I really hope you appreciate this. I hope you get this, because this will enable you to find opportunities everywhere and then test them very quickly. And then so then you move through another learning cycle once you get through the top of it, and you can revert back to the agile plan on the other side if you need to, and explore what some of the other channels you might want to test, because you can then change all these different channels. You can change all the different elements. You can change the problem statement, you can change the customer, you can change your solution around, your revenue model around, you can change your channel around. So easy to do this whilst it's on paper and in this iterative stage of learning. Hard to do it if you've spent 50 grand building something out. It becomes more solid, you're rigid, you're over attached to it. And you know what, that's high risk, and I want to help you to avoid that. And I know the tendency is that's safe in the sense that, oh, I'm working on my project and no one's judging me, like I'm safe in that sense. I don't have to go out and talk to people. But what I'm saying is you're not safe, because you're putting you and your family and all that's dear to you at risk, because you're wasting your resources on something that's fundamentally going to be broken. You need to man up, woman up, and get out and do this work. I'm here to help if you need it. We're here to help if you need it. How could this help you? I want to take you a minute. Pause this. How can this help you? How could this change your world? So now, I want you to do three things. I want you to stop, and I want you to give yourself a hug and tell yourself that you are enough. I am enough. Come, I am enough. Like there's an epidemic out there, and particularly in the Australian culture, this tall poppy stuff, it's got to stop. In our community, we've got this concept we call it Go Kanye. What's Go Kanye? It's like, who's Kanye West's number one fan? Kanye West, of course. He talks himself up. He's the man, and we need to be that person for our concept and for ourselves. So I want you to stop now and tell yourself that you are enough, and give yourself a hug. I want you to, if you haven't already, download this worksheet. It's free. It's my gift to you. You've got this video to help guide you through it. So whether I never see you again or I see you sometime soon, this is a gift, and I hope you do use it, because I know it'll save you thousands of dollars in lost time, money, and energy. So please do that. And join a tribe, not an Indigenous tribe. I'm not encouraging you to leave everything dear to you here and go join a South Pacific tribe. What I'm saying is find a community of other like-minded people. theSPACE is one. I'd love for you to join theSPACE. There is a link that you would have hopefully been exposed to by now to join our Facebook group. It's a group of people just like you, sharing resources, sharing learning. If not that, there's plenty of hubs and co-working spaces around. Join a tribe of people that will, it just helps to fortify the journey that you're going through, and you'll learn as much from each other as you do from your own individual learnings. And I want you to think about, how would this change your life? So you might be out there, you're in a job, you've got an idea, and what I'm showing you is a process of how to execute on that idea as risk-aversely as possible. Keeping your key resources, time, money, and energy, preserving them. I'm not saying you won't need to use them, but we want to say we're going to use them strategically. So how would this change your life if you stepped off into this space and you learned these skills and you could be an entrepreneur? And so you've got an idea now, but then other ideas you can apply this to. And in my entrepreneurial journey, like for me now, it's like, well, I get to wake up each day and do what I was born to do. And that's awesome. I say that's my awesome. And my awesome is to help you find your awesome. So how would this change your life? That's it, guys. You got the plan, you got the resource, but this is, you know, how to start a business like a boss, how I made money, 6K from idea, day one. This is a process that enables you to make bank straight up. And if you follow it, it will help you mitigate risk. It'll help you step off into a whole new journey in life that is ultimately fulfilling. It's to wake up each day and do what you're born to do. You know, like, that's awesome. Take care. Thank you for your time, and I do hope I see you soon.